It's Tuesday night. You know what it means for the QMJHL. It's time for the YouTube Live, and our guest tonight is Gordie Dwyer. Guys, if you're watching live, you have question for the GM and coach of the Acadie-Bathurst, Tita. Well, you just put it in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to ask Gordie those questions. Gordie, I was super sick the last couple of days, but I couldn't resist a chat with you. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, well, good to hear you're feeling better, Alex, and yeah, it's great to be on the show. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I always say like part of my job that is pretty awesome is I can chat casually with real hockey people and people that live pretty much everything, which is pretty much your case. So I feel privileged that you've done so many things, and we're gonna have to talk about those things today. But like I said, before we get in what you do in the QMJHL this year, I have a couple questions. Maybe some things that are related to the news and actuality and stuff. So I'm curious. Is there a lot of snow in Bathurst right now?
Yeah, we actually just got the big storm, just like Montreal on Sunday. So fortunately, we were able to play our game on Sunday and then make our way to Charlottetown after the game. And the roads were. I've seen better days on the roads, and we made ourselves across the bridge before the bridge closed that night, and we were able to kind of come away with 2 points again last night, and then that was another ordeal as well with the bus and the bridge closing. So we made our way back with good help from our friends with Summerside, the Western Capitals. Pat McKeever and their ownership group were able to secure a couple pickup trucks for us to be able to get our equipment back over the bridge before it closed totally for the night, and then we made our way slowly back to Bathurst in the snow. So it was a good ordeal, but that's what you deal with in the wintertime, right?
I mean, that's something that people don't think about when they see the players play, right? They don't always think about all the travel, you guys, and how complicated this thing can be when you do long distance, and then especially when there's a lot of snow. So I guess I guess I'm glad to know that everyone got home safe, and you guys could also play some hockey. So that's great, and the weekend went great for you, I think so.
Yeah, no, well, obviously the safety is a priority for the players, but we have a responsibility to get the players to and from the game safely, and sometimes it just takes you got to be a little bit creative in those situations. So we were able to get across the bridge before it closed totally for foreseeable time. So we were able to get back to Bathurst safe and sound, and with 2 points, which was great.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Charlottetown is home for you. Like your family is there, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we moved to PEI about 20 years ago, and started vacationing there. And every season we spent a little bit longer until we bought a house and it became home.
How do you like Charlottetown with that much of a snow? Like it's a small city, like it's a small main street and stuff. How do you like it with that much snow?
Well, I mean, the winters in PEI are pretty fierce, but it's really about the summertime, and that's where you really want to be. The beaches are nice, the golf courses are nice. Charlottetown's got a great culture and a great city in that regards, and it was pretty easy to fall in love with it during the summer breaks for sure.
That's funny because the first time I went there, it was really rainy, and my experience was okay. And then I went back like I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks after that, and it was super sunny, and I absolutely enjoyed my time in Charlottetown. So that was great. So glad to know everyone was safe. Glad to know that you could go home. Go home for a couple of days, because obviously you're in Bathurst too at home. That's where you speak right now. Before we go to what's happening in the league right now, I'm curious because you've played at their highest level. You've played in the NHL, obviously, and now it's a break from the NHL, and it's the Four Nation competition. I'm curious, did you watch the games, and do you enjoy that kind of format?
Well, I think it's been wonderful for hockey, and not only are working in the game and have played the game, that's one thing, but first and foremost, I'm a real fan of the game, and I think that the Four Nations is the first time in over 10 years that the countries have played best on best. And we talked about the game even amongst our team and our players. After practice on Saturday, we talked about this could be the best hockey game possibly ever played, with the most talent on the ice. So with Team USA and Team Canada, and obviously that game didn't disappoint. The physicality side of it, the skill side of it, the fans, and how much emotion was invested in that game. And the Four Nations have done something significant for the game, and it's great to see the best on best. And as a fan, that's really what you want. And everyone's looking forward to the final on Thursday night.
Are you still able to watch a game as a fan? Because I mean, hockey is going in your is flowing in your blood, and coaching is flowing in your blood. So, are you able to watch a game just as a fan, or are you always like in analyze mode?
Well, obviously, you're always trying to pick up, and I think the Four Nations is really exciting about that from a coaching perspective, right? You're trying to pick up on, in some of the subtleties that the different countries are having, and in some of the gameplay that you're seeing, and not only from a skill standpoint, but from a technical standpoint, coaching skilled players, what that looks like, and what kind of systems are Team Canada, Team USA, Team Finland, Team Sweden, what are they running? So you look at it from that perspective, but ultimately, hockey at that level is meant to be enjoyed, and it's meant to be enjoyed as a fan. And I don't think you're going to get much better hockey than Thursday night from a fan's perspective. So all in all, it's been a win for the National Hockey League and a win for hockey in general. When you see best on best, and it's pretty amazing when you can watch Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon and and Connor McDavid all skate on the same ice, for the same team is pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, as a hockey fan, I mean that's absolutely fantastic to see all the talents, and we had an incredible game, and I hope. Are you guys playing on Thursday?
No, we'll be watching the game live from Shawinigan. So we head to Shawinigan on Thursday. So we're in Shawinigan on Friday, and then Drummondville on Saturday. So we have it planned that we'll have a room dedicated to be able to watch the game with our team, and it'll be a pretty special moment to share with the players.
Interesting. So you guys are going to have a watch party for that final. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, exactly. No, it's well worth it. I remember, the Olympics in 2010, and, I'm old enough to remember some of the Olympics before that as well. But, when you look at the Four Nations, people weren't sure how it was going to play out. But ultimately, when you get the best players on the ice together, it's an exciting time. And everyone was kind of questioning the compete level. But, you can tell how dedicated these guys are representing their countries. And when you get that opportunity, you want to make the most of it. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting game Thursday night.
I mean, yeah, and it really makes me question as a hockey fan if I really want to see a All-Star game again. But obviously, I mean, you cannot have this kind of competition every year because you're going to drain the players. I mean, for most of the players, that's supposed to be a time off during the season. And if you put like that big of a competition every year, I mean, I'm sure you're going to drain the players. But I'm glad to have your opinion on that because, like I said, hockey a lot more than I do, and you've seen a lot more hockey than I did in my life. And talking about you seeing a lot of hockey, I'm curious because you've played in the QMJHL, you've played in almost every level, you've coached at almost every level. How come the passion is still there, riding the bus every week and coaching those kids? I mean, it's crazy to me that you could have all the reason in the world not coaching, but you're still there teaching kids how to play hockey.
Well, I think it comes right back to that. It's the passion is driven because, as a player, I valued the competitive side of the game, and whether it was playing in junior hockey, playing minor hockey in Drummondville, Quebec, and making my way up to major junior hockey, and turning pro and signing with the Montreal Canadiens, and being fortunate enough to play in the National Hockey League. It was always about the competitive side of the game, so I always valued that. And transition from playing is inevitable as a player. You're always going to go through a transition from being a player. And what did that look like for me? Well, the opportunity presented itself to start coaching. And I was living in Summerside, Prince Edward Island at the time. And a good friend of mine, Gerard Gallant, who's, has a wonderful career in the National Hockey League and in Quebec Major Junior Hockey League as well. He suggested that I coach the Summerside Western Capitals. So at a young age of 30, just freshly retired from playing, I had the opportunity to start coaching at a junior A level, and, right from there, I was able to kind of cut my teeth with the coaching side of it, and not only the coaching side of it, but the management side of it, the business side of it. So I learned a lot in a couple seasons, and and got right into it. So the opportunity was there, and I took advantage of it. And I think for me, coaching, it allows me to connect with the players, and I value that, but I definitely value the competitiveness that it takes to be successful, in the game of hockey.
I mean, I'm amazed that people like you are still in the game and are still as much as passion as they were when they started playing. I mean, you could not do what you do every day, putting the hours day after day, if you're not passionate about the game, because you won't just make it. So honestly, in my name as a fan and as an employee in the QMJHL, thank you for giving back your passion and helping our kids day after day. I mean, I'm absolutely amazed that guys like you and so many other in the leagues are still here and to help those kids grow. And thank you for that. And I'm actually amazed.
Well, thanks, Alex. And again, it's an honor to be part of the league. I valued my time here as a player. I value my time here as a coach as well. And it's, not only do the players that you coach today, but the players you've coached in the past and the people you've connected with. And that's the great thing about our league and our game. It's really about the people, right? So whether it's the fans, I go back to my days with the Hall Olympics and or the Quebec Ramparts, and I still go back to those cities, and I'm able to connect with the fans and the fan base that are there. And it's an honor for me to have played at the lake level and now to coach at this level and manage at this level. I've enjoyed every step of the way, and it's all about the players and all about the people.
Is there, I mean, I don't want to put you on a spot here, but is there like an NHL dream, something for you as a coach or maybe as a GM? Is it something that you'd like to? Is it something you aim for, or not necessarily? If it happens, it happens, but you'll see what happens?
Well, I think everybody's motivated to get to the highest level, and that's something that's always driven me as well. But as I continue to mature as a coach, I think my first few years I was really in a hurry to get to the next level, and I always felt that was really important, and it still remains important. But I want to try to enjoy every step along the way. So whether that opportunity presents itself, which hopefully it does at one point, but I want to be able to enjoy what I'm doing now and the work that I'm doing and where I'm at. So it's, I look at it from a family perspective, with my kids and my boys and their age, and able to share my experiences with what they're doing, and be able to share that as a family as well. So I'm definitely not in a rush to make that next step, but it remains an ultimate goal. But I want to enjoy my time here first.
Yeah, I guess if you enjoy the ride, there's more chances that you're going to go far. If you enjoy the process, there's more chances that you're going to progress. So I guess that's the right and maybe the only answer in that kind of question. Let's talk about your team now. We've talked a little bit about you. We're going to come back about your souvenir and the memory in the queue. Like, I have that on my plan. Don't worry, I have a couple questions for you. But I want to talk about your team. How do you see your team so far? The Acadie-Bathurst Titans. I think I'm not mistaken. I think you guys kind of, I don't know if overachieve is the good word, but I think you're a bit better than maybe some kind of experts or people would have think at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the experts are the experts, I guess, but ultimately, we believe with what we have in our locker room, and I'm really impressed, and I'm really happy with the progress of our team this season. And when you look at it, we're a younger hockey team. A lot of younger players playing key roles in our hockey team as well, and we wanted to provide that opportunity to our players this year. So, obviously with a younger group, and and the future looking so bright for the franchise here, it's for us is really about providing that opportunity and driving the performance of our younger players. And to do that, you got to give them the confidence, you got to give them the opportunity, but they have to be surrounded with some really good veterans as well. And I feel like our leadership group, some of our veterans, they're well dispersed throughout our lineup, and we've got contributions from those guys this year. And whether we're punching above our weight class or not, we feel that we're a competitive team, and that we work hard, and and ultimately if you do those things, and you do those things consistently as a hockey team, you're going to have some success. And that's kind of our recipe.
Yeah, because I was looking at the ranking. You're now 6th in the East, but it's really close in a really strong division. I mean, you guys could easily finish fourth if you had, and maybe above, depending on how it goes. But I think fourth is really more than reasonable to think that it's achievable. How do you see your team perform like for the remaining of the season, and what do you expect from your team?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm thrilled with the start of our hockey season and how we got out of the gate this year, and a lot of that goes back to some of our key players. You look at Josh Fleming this year, who's had an excellent season in the league, and could be in the running for an MVP title as as one of the most valuable players in the league this season. And it's a player that was coming off a probably underperforming season last year. And, he comes back as a 20-year-old where we have a ton of confidence in him. And he really provides us an opportunity, gives us an opportunity to win every night when he's in the net. And that's really what you need, especially with a younger team. So, our defense core has been solid. Our younger players up front, they continue to drive the play for us. So, I like the way that we started the season. After Christmas, we've had some challenges, at times, but you know that you're going to go through that as a team and a younger team, and you only learn from those experiences and get stronger from those experiences. So, we have an identity of how we want to play. We have an identity of who we want to be as a team, and that's really important. And when you're true to that identity, you'll have success.
And I mean, it's always like that in junior. You're always building for a winning cycle, and you're, like you said, you're still a young team. So it's not only building for this year, but for the upcoming years also. And that's what you have to think as a GM specifically, but I guess as a coach also. Talking about having a young team, there's a player that is doing pretty great in his draft year so far, Will Reynolds. Talk to me about what do you see from him, and what do you think makes him a good prospect this year for the next NHL draft?
Yeah, well, I mean, Will is, he really deserves the accolades that he's getting and some of the recognition from NHL teams. And, we have a couple draft eligible players this year. Noah LeBerge is doing an excellent job on the back end as well. And that's, at times his defense partner, and he's well rated. And, we've got some forwards as well that, that'll get some looks as well. But Will Reynolds has done an exceptional job. We were fortunate enough to be able to make him to acquire him in a trade last year for Ty Higgins, who we feel was one of the better defensemen, if not one of the best defensemen in the league. And, with a deadline deal last year, it was, Will Reynolds was definitely a key piece to that deal at the deadline. And, it was a player that I've known. I've been fortunate enough to be able to spend some time around the 07 group in the Maritimes, with my son, and was a player that we felt strongly about. We missed out on him at the draft, and is a player that's continued to develop. So out of his draft year, he's probably put on, 15, 20 pounds and 2 or 3
he's a big guy, right?
Yeah. So he's about 6'3.5" now, and he's putting on size, but he's always had a distinct skill set. So he sees the ice extremely well. He's able to break out pucks. He's, he can eat minutes. He defends really well with his stick and his size and his physicality. And he's really good in transition. So his game continues to progress. He started off the season, with lower minutes, and then, he continues to progress and gain confidence and gain ice time with our group. And, he's really trending in the right direction, and should be, on most NHL lists, come June this year.
Yeah. And I have quite of a, I don't know if personal is a good word, question for players development. In your case, being like, I don't want to diminish your career, but being an underdog story that made it to the NHL, is it easier for you to motivate your players and talk through them? Because you live pretty much everything you have to live in the hockey world as a player and as a coach. So is it easier for you as a coach and maybe as a GM to manage this kind of situation for the players? And are they more aware or receptive because of that?
Well, I mean, it's a fair question for sure. And I think every experience gives you a greater perspective on where you are as a coach, or as a mentor, as a teacher, as a player for that matter. But, I try to share my experiences as much as possible with our players, but it's really not about me. But I try to tap into some of my experiences as a player to share them with the players. But ultimately we're there to help guide them. We're there to help support them. And, when it comes to a draft year or a contract year, anything along those lines, or even your first steps in the league, I think it's important to, to teach them the right way and the fundamentals of what it takes, regardless if it's, with the Acadie-Bathurst Titan or, if it's with the Montreal Canadiens. Really, it's about doing things the right way consistently. And that's probably the biggest challenge in junior hockey, is being consistent. But we try to preach that consistency in how we prepare, our practices, and ultimately try to build the players up for that, so that they're most prepared for a successful career, post major junior.
Well, that's actually, I think it's pretty interesting what you said, because honestly, with all the experience you have, I'm sure the guys appreciate your touch, and I'm sure it helps for those guys. Talking about developing some players, there's one I guess is a little bit special for you, who you actually had the chance to play against a couple of weeks ago. I'm talking about, well, actually last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, against your son. So your son is pretty much making his way to the QMJHL right now, or first steps in the QMJHL. How is it to have your son playing against you?
Yeah, no, it was an exciting time. So, when Ryan got the call from Baie-Comeau and the opportunity to play his first games, and it actually lined up against the Titan, it was a pretty special moment. So, he's been around the game, and everyone has their own path, but ultimately Ryan chose to go to Stansted College for the last 2 seasons in Quebec, and he's really enjoyed his time there, and he's grown as a person, grown as a player, and that school has provided him an opportunity to continue to grow and probably not be as, someone who might not have been ready for major junior hockey at 16 years old. And he's continued to develop there. So not only was he able to make his first steps, but he was able to get an NCAA commitment to RPI, which was huge for him. And that was his goal. And then he turned his eyes to major juniors. So having the opportunity to see him play in the league was special for sure. It was a special moment for our family, special moment between Ryan and I as well. And really the first time that I ever coached against one of my boys. So I've either coached them or watched them, but I've never had an opportunity to coach against them. So it was a different feeling. It was a special night. And I was extremely proud of my family and the boys and Ryan in particular that night.
All right, so now I have a couple of questions. Feel free to answer or not, but how are you as a hockey dad? Because I know you as a hockey coach, but obviously I don't know you as a hockey dad. Are you hard on your child in hockey? Like, how are you as a hockey dad?
Well, I think we're all trying to figure it out, right? As hockey, as parents, or as hockey dads or hockey moms. And, my thing is this, is that, my career has taken me away at times, and, where I've coached from, different places. So I've been able to share those experiences with my kids. And I think that they've been able to grow because of that. But ultimately I haven't had the opportunity to be there every single practice or every single game. So I think the connection of players with my kids has been, to talk to them, after practice, after games, and get their opinion on their game. And I think their self-evaluation is important, because it's ultimately how the player feels, how he played. And, if you can add a few pointers, I think that's really important. But if a player can have a good self-evaluation of how he's played and how much fun that they're having, I think that's really important. I've enjoyed my time, with them in minor hockey. Time flies really, really quickly. So my only suggestion would be to parents would be to enjoy the ride. It's your players are on their own paths, whether it's the path to the National Hockey League or, to major junior hockey, or even just to play local hockey. It's a great sport. And I think you got to recognize that. And, ultimately we are the finished product regardless. We all end up in the same place. So we want to try to enjoy those experiences as much as possible. So short, I think that, as a coach, I might be pretty intense, but as a hockey dad, I think I enjoy sitting back and watching my kids play and offering as much advice as needed, if needed. And, but it's really about them enjoying their experience.
All right. And the last question, was there any chirping going back and forth with your kid before the game, or did you guys just not talk before the game?
Well, it's funny because I didn't even notice them on the first shift until he skated by our bench because I was really focused on the start of our game and our lineup matchup. And once I saw him on the ice, it kind of hit me where I was like, oh, there he is out there. But it was funny because he spent a lot of time in our environment as well. So, whether it was the assistant coaches or the players, and I think he had a couple, chances close to the net, and we're all kind of like, Jesus, Ryan, like it was pretty funny. Kind of caught us off guard a little bit, but it was great. I enjoyed the moment, but ultimately we came out with the win against Baie-Comeau, so I still had to retain some bragging rights there, and it was Dwyer versus Dwyer, and I'm happy that Ryan won his first game, but like any good parent, I don't let my kids win too often, so good to be able to walk away with the win. So at least I'll always have that story.
In a couple of years from now, you're going to watch that picture and remember him that you got the win after that picture, right?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
I mean, you have to. I mean, it's part of the game. It's part of the game. That's awesome. That's a really good story. Now I'm curious to go back on your memories because obviously you played in that league, and that's a league that changed a lot. But what are your best memories of your time in the Q? Because a lot of people and a lot of NHL players that I've been working with or talked to, they told me that one of their best time in their life was in the QMJHL because it's not a job yet. It's almost like a job, but it's not yet. So I'm curious, how was your time in the Q, and what are your best memories of that time?
Well, I mean, a great question, and I'll agree to that because when I look back and everyone wants to talk about the glory days or when the good old days, and when you think about your career, and it's rarely your experiences during pro hockey, but it always comes back to who you played with and who you played for in junior hockey. And I was very fortunate to play with some really good players and play on some good teams. And if I look at my first year with the Hall Olympics, who are now the Gatineau Olympics, it was in 94, 95, and Bob Mongrain was our coach. Charlie Henry was our general manager. Claude Julien was our assistant coach as well. And, the likes of Peter Worrell and Jose Theodore, Colin White, Sebastian Bordeaux, like we had a great crew, and we were able to win the President's Cup that year and go to the Memorial Cup out in Kamloops. And that was a great experience. And then you look on, at 18, I had an opportunity to play in Drummondville and with Daniel Briere, and, look at his on ice success and had the opportunity to play with him. And, it definitely helped drive my development as well and my experience. And then at 19 to be able to go back to the Quebec Ramparts and the first year of the Ramparts, and, fortunate enough and honored to be their first captain, and coming back into the league. And that was a special time where the Ramparts made their return. And, hockey was big in Quebec, and the Ramparts, the return of the Ramparts was a big story. And, be able to play with the likes of, Simon Gagné or Eric Chouinard in particular. And, those are some of the guys that I really enjoyed playing with. And, you look at their careers and where they've gone on to and where they are now. And it's pretty funny. Well, we're all ended up back at the same place. So it's, some of those experiences that I've had as a player, my time in those cities, my time in those communities, and it feels like it's just, it's not that long ago, but time does fly. And but I enjoyed every single minute of it. I enjoyed every moment of it. It was a really good experience. It provided me an opportunity to get drafted in the National Hockey League twice and go on and sign in the National Hockey League. But my experience in the QMJHL was first and foremost, it was excellent, and it really prepared me for life and the next steps.
Gordie, I think we're going to do a little bit more in English and maybe cut a little bit in French because I have a couple questions here that are good. Do you know William Martin? Do you know William Martin?
Pretty sure I do.
He's just going, hey,
Gordie,
yeah,
there he is. Yeah, from Charlottetown, yeah.
There you go. But I do have a good question from Tom Eden here because talking about your time with the Quebec Remparts, there's a lot of people that know, and I've seen the rivalry against the Chicoutimi-Saguenay, but when you were playing, the rivalry was, I think, a little bit more with the Rimouski Oceanic. Can you talk about that rivalry? Because I know I've been talking about this rivalry with Eric Chouinard a lot, and it was absolutely a big rivalry and fun to watch, I guess.
Yeah, well, Tom, great question. Good friend of mine and someone that knows the game really well. And we shared a lot of stories over the years. But the time that I was in Quebec and we played Rimouski in the playoffs, and Rimouski was our natural rival at that point, right? Rimouski was fresh to the league, and they had the star power with Vincent Lecavalier and Brad Richards and Derek Walser, and they had a great team, and we played them in the playoffs. And the game before, I had slashed Vinny Lecavalier in the foot, and he was injured, and there was and it was, there was some bulletin board material that was put out, and we walked into the rink in Rimouski, and I remember going to that rink, and during warm up, the amount of signs that were held up, and Dwyer this, Dwyer that, and I look back at it, and there was a 5x7 sheet of plywood that was painted, and it had me in the oceanic boat that was getting crushed, and that walked around, and people were giving a standing ovation, and they had carrots on hockey sticks, and there was a lot of stuff going on. Wow. It was great. The atmosphere was amazing, and I look back on that time, and I remember my teammates coming up to me and asking me if I was okay, because they were kind of, not necessarily intimidated, but they were impressed for sure. And I remember the police escort coming into the rink and coming out of the rink. So it was a different time for sure, but time flies. But I'll always remember those days in Rimouski, and as public enemy number one with the Ramparts.
Yeah, I guess you live for those days, for those big games, for those big rivalry, and we've seen it with the Four Nations. You had the Canada United States matchup, and it got crazy. So and that what makes people watch. I think when the tension is a little bit hot, and when the competition at that is highest level. And I have a question on Eric. How is it? Because I'm working with him now. And a great guy to work with. I love to work with Eric. I know he had an amazing talent, but I was wondering how is he as a person, as a 16 and 17-year-old?
Well, I'll tell you this, is that Eric is he's valued at the league level. Absolutely, his experience and the position that he's in now with the league level will continue to drive our game forward. And it's great to see him and have his experience at the league level. So we're absolutely thrilled to have him involved. But I look back at him as a 16, 17-year-old player, and his ability to shoot the puck and his offensive skill set was undeniable. But I'll always tell him this, is that as much as Eric had a great shot, I think his dad had a better shot. So Guy Chouinard would take, the bucket of pucks before practice. And I think Guy was always the first guy out on the ice, and Eric would want to go out to shoot pucks, and Guy would go out and shoot pucks as well. And as much as Eric was known for a guy that had a great shot, I think his dad will still have that record on having the best shot in the family on that side of it. So I'm sure Eric would have to agree on that side of it. So Guy was our coach. He had a great experience that way. Eric was, a really talented individual. To see him go in the first round that year was pretty special. And, to continue our relationship through the years was great. And I don't think for outside of, maybe an evening for a Bryan Adams concert, I don't think he missed curfew too many times because of me. So, but that kind of goes back in the day. But he was a great player, great teammate, and better person.
Did Guy Chouinard knew about that, or you just learned that now?
No, I think Guy found out, but sometimes as a coach, you got to choose what you hear and choose what you don't. But it's I think it's water under the bridge now.
Did Bryan Adams give a good show? Was it worth the price? That's what I.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a really fun story. It's better than I was expected. I'm going to ask you maybe one last question, because it's something we cannot really avoid right now. But just a quick word on what you're going to remember most from Bathurst, because obviously it's the last year in Bathurst, and what do you expect transferring the team in St. John next year? And I don't want a big answer, but just quick thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, it's obviously the one thing that people want to recognize and people want to know about Bathurst is that if you haven't had the opportunity to spend time in Bathurst, then I suggest you do. If it's out of your way, then make time, come visit the community, because it's a wonderful community. It's a great hockey community, and hockey is really important in this community. It has been, it always will be, and it's got a great history of hockey. And the Titan are are really really historic brand of hockey as well in the QMJHL. And when you look at their history, whether it started in Laval and then transferred over here, they've been a significant part of the QMJHL for many years. So the team's going to be missed. It's going to be missed in the community as well, and we know that and we sense that. But ultimately, our goal is to live out the brand here and finish things off strong and to provide the fan base, some special moments here throughout the years. But you look at the alumni that have been in Bathurst and the alumni that have been in part of the whole Acadia Peninsula and the players that continue to come back to the community, enjoy the community. It's a pretty special place, and it'll always be special because of that. Looking forward to St. John's. I mean, St. John's is a hockey community as well, and they've had a lot of success, and they have a lot of history there, a lot of great players out of Newfoundland, and I know that there's a ton of excitement for the franchise, and rightfully so. Major junior hockey is the best level of hockey as a fan. It's community based. I know that the team's going to be really successful in St. John's because of the community, because of the players and the program that we'll have on the ice. And I'm really looking forward to starting things in St. John's. And I know the people are there as well, but ultimately we want to be able to live out the Titan brand here in Bathurst and give the fans, something to remember us by.
I mean, I think that's an amazing answer, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy your remaining time in Bathurst and see what's going on next year in St. John. Quick words before I let you go. Last year, I think it was during the final. I think a couple weeks after that, Brian Adams was in Bécomo. If you ever want to go back and see Brian Adams again,
there you go.
Nowadays, you see, we can arrange something with Eric here in the office or something. All right, Gordie, thank you so much. That was so good. I mean, I would have done an hour. We have to go in the French interview. If you're watching in English and you want to watch, Gordie speaks in French, which is doing really well. While you switch on our YouTube, we're going to start the live in a couple of minutes. All right. Thank you, Gordie.
Thanks, Alex.
See you.